here tonight who does not have Chiari, but she has cervical instability and has quite a bit of voice issues due to that. So she's going to tell us about her experience, and then we'll have our expert lecture. So thank you for coming tonight. And this is Sharon Nerese.
Hey, thank you for having me. June the 2nd, 2014, I'm a nurse. I live in the upstate. I run a home health agency. I've never had an injury or a spinal injury in my life. I was at work and I went to pick up a box, and I thought it was a box of picture frames. Instead, it was a box of copy paper that was 60 pounds. And so when I leaned to pick up the box, I got it right about this way, but I couldn't lift it up higher, so I slung it forward. And when I did, my weight of my arms went across, and I felt a pop at the back of my skull on the right side. I was at work. I started feeling kind of weird, so I went over to the hospital, and the doctors looked at me and said, "What do you feel?" I had a pain that went down to my finger. They said they just think I have a sprained muscle, and put a collar on my neck. And after that, I went to Italy for 10 days, 5 days later. But the day before, and I'd seen the doctor 3 times before I went. They had family medicine practice doctors seeing me. I saw the doctors, and I started saying, I feel like there's a lump, an egg in my throat. It feels weird, and I don't feel right. Something doesn't feel right. And they gave me Flexeril, and I said, well, how about just a steroid pack in case I get over there and there's a issue. And I went with 11 girls from my high school, my daughter including, and I was the nurse for them. I got on the plane, and you know how the seats tilt your head forward? When my head started tilting forward, I started getting really nauseated, and I thought maybe I got air sick. Well, while we were flying, after we got off, I tried to pull my bag, and every time I pull my bag, I get sicker. And it was nausea, looked like the vision was a little blurred. I felt like I had a little raspiness in my voice. As time progressed, I had taken my own TENS unit with me. I was trying to doctor myself. I had biofreeze that I'd snuck in my bag. I was flying back, and my husband picked me up from the airport, and I said, I do not feel well, and I was almost completely out of voice. And he said, maybe you have a cold. So I went to bed, jet lag, and a nurse from my office came and crawled in bed that morning and said, DHEC's at the office, we need you to come in. So I flew into the office that morning, kind of feeling rough, and I went to sign my name on a piece of paper. When I tilted my head, at the same time I went to sign my name, I not only lost my voice, but I could think what I wanted to say, but I couldn't get the words out at that point. But it was a slow, and it wasn't like it was a brain injury type thing. It felt like it was more of, I knew the word, but it was a slow draw to get the word out. I was nauseated. I stood up. I passed out. I had a heart rate that when I would stand, that would go like a pot's to about a 135, 140, 150, and I would sit back down. I went back out to the hospital. Now this would probably be the 5th doctor from family medicine that had seen me. They were all different doctors, and at this time, we have a little small hospital. Nobody had the record from the record from the record from the record. And I finally said, listen, I love y'all guys, but if y'all don't send me to a neurologist or something, something is not right, or somebody needs to do another x-ray or something. And they called a doctor in our local hospital, and he looked at me immediately and said, I think you might have a ruptured alar ligament, which ended up being the case. Every time I'd tilt my head, every time a pillow would touch, if a necklace went on my neck, anything that would cause pressure on the back of my neck, a bra strap too tight, a backpack, anything that would cause, and I'll do an example before I finish, but if I do it, Dr. Halstead and Kristen knows, and Susan, I will lose my voice, so I'm going to show you what it does. And I'm getting a little wavering on my voice now, but I went to the neurologist, who immediately, they had done some MRIs with me lying down. The lying down MRI never would catch what my injury was. So he sent me to Charlotte to do an upright MRI. And I mean, it was, I kept saying, I think it's associated with my vagal nerve, because I had reflux with me standing up. Well, it really probably wasn't reflux, it was just burning in the back of the throat. That was nerve burning. But everything was when I stood. If I would lie down, everything would go away. It was very positional. So every MRI or every x-ray that you did on me never would show anything. So they sent me to an upright MRI. The moment that one came back, it was, I had a kink in the brain stem. The alar ligament had ruptured, and it had turned this way and was pushing forward. Immediately they sent me to Dr. Patel, who did a 5 and 6 fusion. I ended up seeing Dr. Halstead, who did a scope on my throat and said that I had some paralysis on the left side of my vocal cord. And I had some other tests to see where it was coming from and what was going on. And she worked with Dr. Patel, and he later on, after the 5-6 fusion, I got worse. I think it tightened the bottom but made the top looser. Decided he wanted to do an occipital fusion. I stomped my feet and said, please don't do it. So I found everywhere else in the country that I could go, and I found Fraser Henderson Sr., who agreed to see me and said, I think I can probably fix you with the C1, C2 fusion. So I went up to Washington, where I went for a good bit, and he did a C1, C2 fusion on me. Symptoms did not stop. They got worse. My right eye was starting to now dilate every time I would lean forward. The heart rate was still an issue. I would pass out in the yard. And everything was going toward the 9th, 10th, 11th, the whole lower brainstem. And though you said it's not Chiari, every neurologist or neurosurgeon has gone to, is very close to a Chiari-like symptom. And it is because of the area around how far I was kinked on my brainstem, and medulla was bent that far forward that it had caused some, and this was now 4 years ago. So I've got a little bit of recovery in nerves. But so during that time period, after C1, C2 fusion, I'd never had issues with arms. And if you can tell, I have complete wasting of the upper traps here and here. And I haven't turned my head purposely so I can still keep my voice. But they sent me to a shoulder doctor who said, you have the only case of bilateral accessory nerve and long thoracic nerve palsy. By that time, he said, I have no idea what to do with you. They sent me for therapy, where I had all the residents in Greenville follow me because they had never seen such a case. And you hate being the person that says, gosh, I've never seen that, but I've been the person. And I was in Greenville, and they were looking at my shoulders because I've got, my shoulder blades won't stay on my back. They pull off, and it's kind of wasted these muscles. And Susan's been working real hard with me to try to build these up. But before I went to a person like Susan on Daniel Island, I went to a therapy group who decided that while they were doing that, they would push my head with a ball for an exercise up against the wall. And you would push your head on it. And when I pushed my head, and I kept telling them I feel real sick with the lump in my throat, and when I pushed my head forward, I completely lost the use of my arms and my leg, and I could not speak, and I could see everything that's going on, but I could not speak. And I was rushed in the emergency room via ambulance to the hospital where I had central cord syndrome that lasted for about 4 hours. The only thing I could say was, Mike, call Fraser Henderson and give the phone to the doctor, who was freaking out in the emergency room. My arms and legs came back, but he said that it is pushed on the central cord. The part of my cord had been compressed. So as time went on, I finally agreed with Dr. Patel. I came back to Dr. Patel to ask, I'm not feeling any better. He looked. He said, Sharon, your brainstem is pushed too far forward. I had something called a digital motion x-ray. That is an x-ray where you stand. They have them in Myrtle Beach now. It's where you stand and you move your head forward and rotate, and it watches you while you're in a motion. And it caught the fact that the C1, C2 screws had turned to the left and gone in this way. So my whole side had rotated, and my C2 and 3 had turned too. But it is a motion x-ray that you can watch a person move. And Dr. Henderson had told me about one of those, and you do have one in North Myrtle that's available, the only one I know about in South Carolina. But after that, I decided to have surgery. I had surgery on December 27th, was discharged from the hospital on January the 1st with the occipital fusion all the way down to C4. I'm already fused at 5 and 6 from the prior surgery, so I have a space of 4 and 5 and 6 and 7. And I've been coming down for physical therapy and speech therapy, but the past probably week and a half, I've started having another decline that I don't want anything touching the back of my neck. And I thank gosh for Dr. Halstead and Kristen and Susan, because I've had some brains really thinking about what's happening. And I started doing some tongue exercises, which was wonderful, that actually when you would do it, I could get some relief. But when they did the tongue exercises, it would, it didn't stop the fact that I feel like an iron poker is burning in the back of my throat. And it is so hard to describe to people. But I don't want to be touched on my right side. My left side's weak. My left shoulder's weak. It rotates, it pops out. If you touch up under my jaw, it sets me on fire. If you put your finger here behind my ear, and believe me, they've given me mouthpieces because my jaw has been malpositioned. I broke off a back tooth. And my world has been completely changed. My days, I have 4 kids. I'm married. I ran a home health agency. My days are coming down to Charleston about 3 days a week. My life has completely changed, not to where that I know God still can't make a difference, and I know He's still in control, but it's been really hard. But I've kept my eye on what my future is, and I know His plans are good for me. And so I am doing the best that I can. I'm now having to lie flat, but I'm going to show you an example of if I hold anything in front of me, or hold it, and I'll go into a clearing voice, motion. In a few minutes, if I hold anything in front of me, it will take my vocal cord out. It almost goes into a very slow pattern. This is something Kristen taught me. If I pull my arm back around this way, and I pull and I push this way, I can push my vocal cord back and close it. So we know that it is pulling this way on this side. So I don't hold anything. I don't wash dishes. I can't wash clothes. I can't carry stuff. I can't shop. I can't grocery shop because I can't get the buggy. It's been real beneficial because I've been able to say I can't do it. But it's probably been really hard on my family on that. I can't sit in a seat that buckets. I have to sit in a flat seat. I can't lie in a bed that has a tilt. So I'm the one that walks in and everybody thinks looks normal. So, and I know you're neurology, and I know that there are people that are watching this that are wondering, because I know I watch videos that are wondering out there, is there a chance that somebody will figure out what's wrong with me? There is. There are people out there that are looking to make a difference, and you have hope. There's always hope, and never give up on hope. Never lose hope, because I haven't, and this is my third surgery, and I know that my outcomes are good, but I will feel like I'm choking. It feels like there's a band going across your throat that is, and swallowing will get an issue. So I choose soft foods. I don't want a hard one. I don't like the way it feels. I even have seven speech therapists that work for me, and I have physical therapists that work for me, and they're great, but this scares them. And this is why I drive down to a place that they look at what the impossible is, and they can try to see something that's possible. So that's my experience. My future's got to get better, and I know it will. But I'm not worried about it, because that's my hope. My hope is in Christ and Christ alone. So, and I will let anybody ask questions, or I don't know what I'm supposed to do, but.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I can't carry my bag back because I want to try to finish speaking. All right, thank you.